Fantastic. Thank you very much, Laura, and good morning all. Hope you are well. Good to see some known faces, but also some new faces as well. So I'm Matthew Lawson. I'm the coordinator of the UNICA Green and Sustainable Development Goals Working Group, and I'm based at the University of Edinburgh, and very much looking forward to this event today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to talk through the agenda of today's online round table, and the focus of the presentation and the group discussion will be on the development and implementation of sustainability strategies at our institutions. So we have three speakers that will present their own experience of developing strategies at their own institutions. And all three presentations will have a different angle. So hopefully they'll contribute a range of different kind of values and benefits to members on the call. There'll be a brief opportunity for Q&A after the presentations, but then we go straight into breakout groups where we have more in-depth conversation framed around three questions. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you some initial findings of a survey that we have put out to UNICA members just about their experience of developing and implementing sustainability strategies. Just to say, what I'm going to show you is a snapshot. We are hoping to get a few more institutions to complete the survey, and a detailed report will be shared with all members in due course as well. So you can look in depth at the findings, what members are saying, but also the recommendations from that as well. So a very quick run through of those results. So to date, we've had 18 universities complete this survey, which is absolutely fantastic. And just to say, we've had some universities who have not engaged with the working group complete this. And as I said at the start, we're awaiting a few others to complete the survey. So hopefully we can reach and go above that 20 number. But some of the initial findings so far suggest that the majority of institutions who have completed the survey do have a university-wide sustainability strategy in place. There's a number who have outdated strategies and also don't have any strategies currently, but might have more localized strategies as well. And what's really interesting is the variety of different positions that have responsibility in this area. Moving on to the next slide, this just shows you a couple of headline figures. So again, looking at how we kind of report our progress there, very much a mixed bag in terms of who produces annual reports. And that links very much to in terms of when they are reviewed as well, but also those strategies that are certified by various management systems, for example, environmental management systems. Certainly the majority don't have their strategies certified. What also came through the survey so far very clearly is that universities have a range of different structures in terms of the structures that are responsibility for sustainable management. So again, we have a number of governance groups outlined on this list, a number of roles, and a number of different areas of universities as well, looking at campus operations, estates, but also looking at offices of vice presidents and rectors as well. So a very varied bag here. What's also very clear is that many of the strategies map onto the Sustainable Development Goals and contribute specifically to the goals, with SDG 12 around responsible production and consumption and SDG 13 around climate action being the most popular. And again, this slide just highlights the projects and initiatives that universities have implemented. Also a focus on communication and awareness in terms of do they have specific strategies around that. And also, again, what's come through very clearly is that our universities, our members of UNICA, do engage with a variety of networks, both local, national, but also international. So that gives you a bit of a kind of overview of some of the initial findings. I just want to maybe set the scene very quickly for these presentations we have coming up, because we did ask about some of the challenges in developing strategies, but also implementing strategies as well. And the challenges in developing strategies, these were some of the most popular points in terms of some of the challenges included an understanding of sustainable concepts at senior and middle management level, the challenge of getting buy-in from senior leadership, the time it takes to actually develop strategy and the resource required, and also navigating complex governance arrangements. And moving on to how you implement strategies and challenges around that, many of our members have big, complex institutions. Many have delegated authority or responsibility across different units. And also there is a gap. How do you bridge that realization of policy into practice? That is very challenging. And something that's coming across loud and clear is the importance of resource, not just financial, but also in terms of staff resource as well. So hopefully that sets the scene for the presentation that we're about to hear from now. We have 3 presentations, will be 10 minutes in length, and after all 3 presentations, there'll be an opportunity for some questions. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Delphine to take the floor and start our presentation. Delphine, over to you, please.
Thank you, Matthew. I will share my screen here. Okay. So yes, as Matthew said, I'm Delphine Douçot, and I am the deputy of the vice rector in charge of campus management and sustainability strategy at UNIL. So it is now 10 years that we have a sustainability strategy at UNIL. It started in 2012 with the nomination of a vice rector in charge of those questions. But I will focus the presentation not on this period, but more on the turning point that this strategy reached in 2022 in terms of ambition and tools we use for it. So yeah, on the successive version of the strategic plan of the overall university, we were able to set objectives, sustainable objectives, always focus on 4 axes: the campus management, the education, the research, and the society outreach. And since 2012, we explore and stabilize different sustainable projects. As often said, we've been doing since 10 years the usual business for an academic institution involved in sustainability. For example, we elaborate sustainable policies on energy, commuting, and green spaces management. We care a lot about biodiversity because we have a big green campus. And we also started to think about what we will be able to do concerning the staff travel. And we also work on sustainability criteria on the catering company. So all that we were doing more in terms of one-shot type of project, and we made the assessment at the end that maybe we needed more people to get on board with us in the strategic plan of the sustainability strategy of University of Lausanne. So when came the time to write the new strategic plan 21-27 of UNIL, the question that came up were what could UNIL do better to pursue its sustainability effort and move toward a real ecological and social transition, and how we could push this thematic in order to get more people on board in UNIL community. So in its new strategic plan elaborated in 2022, It is written that ecological transition requires profound structural, organizational, and cultural changes, and that ecological and social transition need that human activities should remain within the planetary boundaries while ensuring the basic needs and well-being of all. So that phrases are in the strategic plan of University of Lausanne. That's so as the UNIL also aims to be a living lab, it was then obvious that these principles should be tested within the own system of University of Lausanne. That is why we set in this strategic plan the objective 4.3, which is reducing UNIL's impact so that they respect the ecological limits of the planet while fulfilling its social mission. So when you heard about those two concepts, ecological limit and social mission, there is one theory that pops in mind, which is the theory of the donuts developed by Kate Raworth. So as you may know, this theory has been adapted on different scale, planetary, of course, but also at the countries and even city scales. So we attempted to do it also at the UNIL context, on the UNIL context. So here is the result. It takes us a little bit less than 10 months to perform this assessment. In terms of methodologies, we needed to adapt the boundaries and the social needs from the initial theory to fit the UNIL context. For each of them, we calculated its current state with regards to the data we have available, and we defined a threshold value based on the state of science, which together form the ecological limit of UNIL's donut. As you can see, the gray sectors of the graphic are domains that we were not able to quantify. So there is a big lack in terms of the social sector in the center of the donut. We are currently working on this gap, so that one day we will be able to give a complete pictures of the donut of UNIL. That is how we translate the necessity to set the strategy on the scientific knowledge and put forward the planetary boundaries. But remember that we also wanted to that this process to be as participative as possible and to get more people on board. So for this, we set an important governance system. But I will focus on the following slide on the last one, the transition assembly. So this assembly was mentioned in the UNIL strategic plan, and it is the entity that figured the participative way or the participative characteristic we wanted to give to this strategy. And we conceived and animated the activities of the assembly in a very experimental way. We were followed by a UNIL's researcher in governance and in social psychology. So this assembly is composed of 60 people drawn at random at university community, but still representative of the different bodies of the university. And their task was to formulate measures that will allow UNIL to bring its impact within planetary limits while meeting its social mission. So exactly the objective 4.3 that I presented before. So this assembly met several times between November 22 and July 23. In total, during 14 half days of work, and came up with 28 objectives and 146 suggestions of action to bring UNIL into its donuts. They also published the results in a final report that were presented at the rectorate of UNIL September 23.
2 more minutes, Delphine, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will skip to this slide. So now the next step where we are at now is to transform those ideas in a coherent strategy. We are reorganizing these objectives, the one that of the assembly, and assessing their consistency with several institutional documents that we already have. For example, regional objective of sustainability and other programs that we have. We launched an important process of consultation about this, those sustainable objectives, about 15 consultation sessions. And the finality of all that is to produce by May 2024 a first outline of an institutional transition strategy with solidified objective in May 2024, followed by in October measure to achieve these objectives. I also wanted to present this slide because we also will use the donut to structure the monitoring system of the strategy. So in October, as I was saying, we will have in the transition strategy several measures to reduce the impact of UNIL, divided in a series of sectorial policy on energy, biodiversity, and so on. And the indicators attached to those policies will be designed to fit the data required to improve our donut. We will then, on a regular basis, monitor the evolution of the donut. And last slide about the lesson learned from all those processes. So we test with the assembly a new innovative and participative concept of democracy. And I think it was able to fulfill its mandate under some conditions. The first one is that we designed the facilitation in order to transform individualities in a group, in one entity, and we cared about a lot that the dissemination of ideas and opinion was effective, because it was an important factor for us to increase the level of support for the proposed objective. We dedicated important resources to form the assembly members and to put them in contact with experts. And the group had a clear mandate to carry out, supported by this powerful tool that was the donut. And with the donut, we were able to assess a broader point of view on ecological impact, not only climate impact, but the 9 planetary boundaries. It was also useful to set the level of ambition that is generally well accepted among the community. Nobody was, wanted to discussion back on why these objectives and all that. The visual was pretty clear and accepted. The donut also allow us to structure, organize, and improve the collection of data linked to the environmental impact of the institution. And as I last showed, it was also used to structure the monitoring, but for that I will need maybe more time to really see if it's something efficient to reach that objective. But for now, it's quite useful. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for that. Hopefully that sparked maybe a number of questions for later on around the application of donut economics, planetary boundaries, and also the transition assembly as well. I really think quite a lot of innovative points there. Delphine, thank you so much. And we're going to move over now to Ullika. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Everybody sees my presentation? Yes, thank you. Yeah. I saw some well-known faces and several I haven't seen before here. I'm happy to meet you all. and I hope we have time for some questions and discussions at the breakout rooms later. My name is Ullika Lundgren. I work for the section of sustainability at the University of Gothenburg. I work both with environmental management system, but as you understand, we have been widening our concept of what is important for a university today. So of course, we try to address sustainability in many different ways. These 10 minutes, I will mainly focus on the implementation of the goals and strategies into ordinary planning processes at our university. This is something completely new to us since a couple of years back, because we always had a specific sustainability plan for the university. But our new rector said we will not have parallel plans. So sustainability is important, but it has to be integrated in ordinary process of planning and follow-up. And I will try to address some of the challenges that we meet with this. If there is a little time over, I will talk a little bit about a carbon budget we are implementing at department level, and the climate fund that we generate from taking fees for flight travels for according to the polluter pays principle. So I'll see if I can try to change the slides. There we go. Okay. So we have a vision at the University of Gothenburg since 2021, and let's take this down. This is the part actually, the university for the world, and also including sustainable development. And here I just cut out the parts that actually relevant for sustainable development. It says that we should endeavor to be an international higher education and research institution which assumes responsibility for the development of society while helping to build a sustainable world. So it's a mission, and it's very, as you see, a lot of high-strung words, but we're aiming for it. Some of the goals and strategies within this mission has to do, of course, with sustainable development. And when it comes to contribute to the sustainability development goals, we mean actually by research and by teaching. But we also have a strategy of reducing our negative environmental impact. We have been working with environmental management for 20 years. And since 2024, we are certified. We have a certified environmental management system according to ISO 14001 and the European equivalent EMAS. That means that we work with the areas that we find have the most negative impact for environment. So it's procurement, purchasing, travels, energy, chemicals, and waste management, for example. But here, the target, the strategy, the goal is quite wide, as you can see. We should reduce the unfavorable effects of the environment. So how do we proceed with this? From mission, from the vision, from goals and strategies? Well, all the different faculties and departments should use these university strategies as a starting point when developing their own operational plans. And this organizational chart shows that we have 8 faculties with a total of 38 departments. So we will have actually 38 different department plans, not only including sustainability, of course, but including all that a department should handle over a year. These, as you understand, the level of ambition is therefore depending on the department's operations and the ambition, partly on the environmental coordinator that is, I show you a little later how it's organized at the university. And of course, it depends also on the ambition of the head of department. I can say that the only area that is mandatory for everyone is to work with climate impact issues at department level. So here's the organization for sustainability support at the University of Gothenburg. We have a sustainability section where I work, and it is direct support for the Vice Chancellor and the university management. At every faculty, there's an environmental coordinator. Sometimes now they're called sustainability coordinators, but it's actually trying from a delegation from the dean managing what we have to do within sustainability actions. And at every department, there is an environmental representative. So there is good support, both at faculty and at department level, to try to find good actions, to try to find plans, make plans for every part of our environmental impact. This is us, just to show the resources that we have. Sustainability section for sustainability. We are not that many. We are about 5 full-time, and the blue squares in the bottom here shows that part of us, namely me and 3 colleagues, we also have work at different faculties. So that can be sometimes confusing, but mostly it gets us a really deep insight in what is possible for faculties to perform, and what targets or strategies we can help them develop.
2 more minutes to go, Ullika, okay? 2 more minutes.
Thank you. This is what we find with not having the pros and cons, with not having the sustainability plan as a specific action plan for the university. The part, the sustainable development, is part of ordinary planning processes. We are a part of everything that's happening, and we take as much place as everyone else in the different actions that the university has to perform. Our section for sustainability is more involved in ordinary planning and follow-up processes. And we also see that it's increased ownership at the faculty level for faculty managements, that actually everything is not controlled from a university level, but they actually have an ownership for their activities within environment and sustainability. These plans at faculty levels, they are followed up and discussed in meetings with the Vice Chancellor, and between the Vice Chancellor and the faculty management, and that has proven to be a very valuable discussion. The negative part that we see is it's, of course, reduced ownership for our section, but we also sometimes fear that the reduced degree of detail makes it a little bit, some formulations at department level could be very fluffy. We have also reduced organizational governance and management. And we have actually no common indicator linked to goals and strategies. This is what I've here has been called the integration paradox. And I will be very happy to try to have discussions about this in the breakout rooms if anyone is interested in this. I think I stop there. So thank you about this. Thank you.
Ullika, thank you so much. Really interesting about that kind of integrated model across the university and the pros and cons that you've highlighted, and that integration paradox. So colleagues, hopefully that sparked some thoughts, some questions for the Q&A. What I'm going to do now is briefly share with you a presentation based on our experience here at the University of Edinburgh. Fantastic. So I'm going to briefly cover three main points in my overview today. One is to give you a short, sharp introduction into the look and feel of the university. I then also want to kind of highlight our governance framework, looking at certain strategies we have in place. And then thirdly, share with you some honest reflections that I have gathered from the team here at Edinburgh about developing strategy in this organisation. So the University of Edinburgh was established in 1583 by the Town Council, and since then, that civic commitment, that relationship with the city has been very important and is reflected in the commitments of the university. And we do have a large physical footprint across the university. We have 3 academic colleges, from medicine, science and engineering to the humanities as well. And that equates to around about 23 academic schools. And we also have 3 large professional services groups. So we are a significant university. And we are very fortunate because that allows us to be in a position of influence, either through our procurement, looking at our endowment, looking at our community of staff, students and alumni, but also where we are placed as well. Just down the road from where I'm sitting is the Scottish Government. We have a number of governmental bodies in the city, but also we have a very diverse population here in Edinburgh. So we are aware of our size and we're aware of the potential value and impact that we could have across all of our key functions. And that is very much framed within the university's main strategic document, Strategy 2030. And our vision is very much framed around making the world a better place through everything that we do. And within Strategy 2030, there are 4 key focus areas. And one of those is social and civic responsibility. And that brings together the university's commitments on the environment with our commitments to society, looking at that community engagement. So traditionally, the university has always brought these 2 elements together to make our social and civic responsibility, the environment with the social. And at the University of Edinburgh, we do have a dedicated department for social responsibility and sustainability, where we work across the university to provide leadership, but also work with others to meaningfully embed climate and sustainability, as well as that civic commitment across policy, operations, learning and teaching, research, everything we do, including our communications. And apologies for the detail of this. This is our department's operating model, and that gives you a sense of the variety of areas that we work on. We currently have around 40 colleagues in post, ranging from a focus on communications to commercialization and sustainability as well. So where are we with current sustainability strategies? So obviously we have one of the key focus areas of Strategy 2030 being social and civic responsibility. And from that, we have developed a plan that looks at 3 key objectives and 1 cross-cutting theme. This plan has a shared ownership model. So it has oversight through a social and civic responsibility university committee, but some of the actions within that plan are owned by several departments, including academic unit and professional services unit as well. Our department plays a key role in coordinating that and providing additional support to make progress in these areas. We also report our progress on an annual basis. We do that through a number of different means. Our annual report and accounts, where we take an integrated approach to reporting, but also through our annual social and civic responsibility report as well, where we provide, I would argue, a snapshot of current activities, but also challenges as well. Below that social and civic responsibility plan, though, we have a number of different strategies, policies, and plans. I've just taken a couple of screenshots from our website. So that's one of the reflections I have over the last several years. There has been an increase in the number of policy areas being developed, from, for example, biodiversity to modern slavery to palm oil to community engagement. So there has been a diverse proliferation of policies in this area. And one of the challenges is, how do you obtain oversight of those, and how do you make sure that that oversight is at a senior leadership team level as well? So I'm going to pick out a few of those kind of important policies that act as cornerstones of our social and civic responsibility commitment. And one is the climate strategy. So just now we are reviewing our climate strategy with the intention to publish a new strategy in the summer. We recognize that we need a step change in action, because the short to medium term is crucial, especially if we want to avoid the tipping points that many of you will be aware of. We have consulted heavily with staff, students, and external stakeholders, and we are proposing to rebalance the strategy. What does that mean? Well, instead of a sole focus on operations, we'll look at across the board, so looking at learning and teaching, research, partnerships, investments. Secondly, we want to move away from just a climate strategy to a wider sustainability strategy, recognizing that we're in an environmental polycrisis. And in the interim, we want to align with science-based targets. So our strategy will be aligned to the Paris Agreement. With that brings challenges in terms of capital costs. So the strategy will be going to executives in the summer for sign-off, and we'll publish it on the back of that. Another cornerstone of our social and civic responsibility commitment is our community plan, and this focuses very much on how we work with communities in Edinburgh and the city region, the Lothians and Fife. And this takes the form of looking at community grants, community access to rooms, but also how we strengthen dialogue between the university and the city, trying to address some of the negative impacts that we have as a university community, but also harness some of the potential where we could be delivering positive impacts through research and other means. Okay, very quickly, in the next minute, I'm just going to share with you some honest reflections on developing strategy. And actually, I was delivering a class yesterday on this, and this is the picture I showed them. Hopefully this resonates with many of you in terms of that top squiggly line is probably how developing strategy goes, rather than the bottom line there. And I've told some kind of quotes that I think are relevant in terms of part of developing strategy is taking leadership where they don't necessarily want to go. So that can be a challenge, but also our strategies need to have credible plans, and we need to embed sustainable leadership everywhere, not just at the top level. So here's some of my reflections in terms of developing policy. I'll just pull a couple out. One, I think the importance of senior leaders. If you have the right individual at senior leadership position, they can open a variety of doors. Also, there's an opportunity to take advantage of institutional-wide reviews. So, for example, we have a curriculum review at the moment, so we can try and embed climate and sustainability policy in there. But also, developing strategy takes significant time, and change takes time. And once you've agreed one strategy, then you're on to the next one. And you need to constantly evolve, and you can't stand still. But I am conscious of time, so I'm going to stop there. Hopefully, that's provided you with a bit of an overview of our experience here in Edinburgh. But what I'd like you to do is now please pose your questions to myself, Delphine, and Ullika just now. So take a moment, please pop your questions in the chat, or if you'd like to share them verbally, please do go to the reactions tab at the bottom and raise your hand, and we'll get to you. So do we have any questions for colleagues on the back of those presentations?
Hello, and thank you for your presentation. I'm coming from a medical university. Can you hear me? All right. So coming from a medical university, I would like to ask you two questions. First, which are the best first steps in order to set up such a sustainability strategy? So from your point of view, which are the most important elements which could be the base to build up such a strategy? And second, which were your most important difficulties in applying such a strategy? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question there. So we have a question around what are the most important first steps, and secondly, what are some of the difficulties in terms of applying that strategy as well. Delphine, Ullika, would either of you like to go first and provide your reflections there?
I will do so, yeah, I will be pleased to do so. And start. I think it's very, for us, and from my perspective now, to doing that since 10 years, I think it's very about the opportunities, because there is no ideal plan that fit to every university. So from my opinion, I would say that is very much about take the opportunities that you have to act on something, like, you know, put a first drop in it, and then maybe it will just grow and grow. And for example, as you are in the medicine school, we are now assessing the impact of different faculties, and the medicine school and biology school is the most impactful in our university in terms of travel or labs process and so on. So I think it really moved the dean of this faculty to do something. And I mean, yeah, and an assessment, of course, is always a good start. I don't know if Ullika wants to complete.
I would say, for my own sake, it's the lack of control that's difficult for us to have been used for in more than 20 years, to have the ideas, to set it to order and so on. And now, I mean, it's a big step for us that actually sustainability is so important. It should be a sort of part of everything we do at the university. And that is, it's a long way to come here, and we have come far. And that's, I think, it's why it's difficult sometimes to feel you're losing control of this. Can actually the faculty themselves take the responsibility? But actually they do. I think we have a faculty of medicine, and I would say that their management, the dean, and the environmental coordinator at the faculty, they are they're working good together. And that is one important part. So today we find it, I mean, it's some sort, for example, in procurement. For procurement for the whole university, we put a very high level of sustainability demands, requirements. when we do procurements. And we are having a procurement officer, manager for the unit of procurement that is very interested and working very hard to push the boundaries for what kind of sustainability requirements we can do on certain areas of things we buy. But it takes time. I agree with Matthew there. You have to let it take a lot of time and be very sort of, I mean, it's not very following that straight line. It's really ups and downs and different ideas coming from different parts, and you have to consider all of that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the feedback. Very briefly from myself in terms of some of the kind of first steps to consider. I think number one, what level of ambition do you want to maintain? Because no doubt as you go through the stakeholder engagement process, there is a risk that that ambition will be diluted. I think second of all, what's your kind of scope and definition of the proposed strategy? And what I find really helpful is developing a potential roadmap in terms of what gateways do you have to go through for sign-off. And I think, as Ullika highlighted there, one of the biggest difficulties in terms of the application is we know this crisis is urgent. We know that action needs to take place now, but sometimes that can be, and if I'm being honest, quite frustrating at a university, because sometimes that does take time as well. So thank you very much for your question, Ullika. Do we have any more questions there before we go into the chat?
I think, Matthew, there was a question in the chat from Kato Thibault. I don't know, Kato, if you want to take the floor, or we can read it. So she was wondering whether any of the... sorry, I have... it disappeared. Okay, her mic is not working. And then I think on the other side, Catherine fixed her issue. So I was wondering, the question from Kato is, I was wondering whether any of the university are considering to incorporate the CSRD in their strategy or reporting.
Very good question. For those of you who are not aware of what CSRD stands for, that's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, just for clarity there. Kato, just now we're not, but we will be taking a look at this. As I said, we have taken an integrated approach to reporting within our annual report and accounts. We felt that was an important first step, but we will be undertaking a review of how we report progress, and CSRD is very much part and parcel of that. Delphine, Ullika, do you have any kind of comments there just for that question?
Yeah, I didn't know about this standard, so I'm not really able to answer anything.
I can say from the University of Gothenburg, we're not looking into that.
Thank you both. We've got a couple of questions in the chat that we'll go to before the breakout rooms. Ullika, there is a question for you in the chat from Katrine. So if you'd like to read that and provide your feedback, that would be fantastic.
The environmental coordinators at, let's see here, at department level, is their sole responsibility, or do they have another responsibility? Yes, oversight of plans of 38 departments, actually. No, the environmental representatives, no, they're not solely doing this. As a faculty environmental coordinator, I work at 50%. I would say at department level, between 10 and 20% of their time. Most are, for example, research engineers. They are lab professionals. They work with or are very interested in the issues, but they have another profession. But it's never difficult to find environmental representatives, and that has been the strength. That for many years it has been something that just runs. If one ends, the department itself sees that this is the position is filled. Yeah. Yes. Overview. We do it mostly on faculty level, bringing in good practice results from each year from all the different departments, and then we see what's happening. And we can actually follow, because that is the section for sustainability that see what's happening at the university. And at different areas, we find a good actions and a lot of good initiatives, but there are also areas that we feel now is a bit lacking of initiative, and that, for example, on chemicals and this trying to substitute chemicals, for example, as not much interested in our university. Okay.
Ullika, thank you so much. I'm just going to pick up, Catherine, your question about oversight as well. I think we do it with great difficulty, and I think we're still learning how best to do that. I think it's fair to say just now we prioritize oversight over a number of key strategy and policy areas to the senior leadership team. I think also, secondly, there is a challenge that we have found in terms of data, the availability of data to provide evidence of progress against some of the strategies. But we are making strides in that direction. So I think one thing that we have done recently is we have improved our governance. So we do have the right people on these committees now, which is helping with that, I would say, information flow from different parts of the university, which I think there was a challenge there before. So that has improved things, but just now we are prioritizing certain strategies, and certainly a bit of a kind of learning journey just now on that. And before we go into the group chat, there's one more question. Ullika, I believe that's for you from
Yes,
Alexandra.
and I saw Alexandra here, long time. Hi. Thank you for the question. Yes, how we succeed to engage the faculties. Partly mandatory, because all the faculties are supposed to use the strategies for the overarching university level, to use the strategies at their own level. So if it's about aligning to the SDGs in research and education, they have to use that. But what actually their actions are, they can find out themselves. So, and voluntary, partly, if you have an environmental coordinator at support, the dean at the faculty, it's my job to come up with suggestions for good actions for us that will be could be engaging the departments as well. That's how it's work.
Ullika, thank you so much for that. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions. We're going to go into the group discussions now, and what I'll just do, I have just popped 3 questions in the meeting chat to try and guide our conversation. So number 1, it would be great if you could focus on if any of the points in our presentations, if you recognize them, any of those experiences, or also if there's any points of interest to you on the presentation. For example, Delphine, your kind of transition assembly, I think we'll get a lot of interest and questions. I think secondly, we want to know from you, what are some of the key elements that you experience when developing sustainability strategies? What's important to you and your university? But also, what are maybe some of the other aspects that we've not covered today that you think are important as well? So we'll go into the breakout rooms now for about kind of just 15 minutes or so. We'll have a facilitator and note taker in each of those breakout rooms, but I'll just hand over to Laura and colleagues to get the breakout room started. Fantastic. Thank you, Laura, for the heads up. So very briefly from the group that I was in, a couple of key points. I think there's a question about how we achieve urgency. We know that we're in an environmental polycrisis. We know action needs to be taken, but a lot of our universities are slow to move. So how do we do that? We commented on the importance of stakeholder engagement, and we're really interested, Delphine, in your transition assembly. Really interested in terms of how we engage, involve students, because we know that can have challenges. We talked about the evolution of strategy. I think a lot of universities have gone from an operational strategy to adding on learning and teaching and research, and they need to review them over time. And also we felt as a group it was really important to combine a top-down approach with the grassroots approach as well, because you do need that top-level buy-in for resource, but also for signalling that's an important priority of the university, but you do need to harness that energy at grassroots level. So I'll pause there and I'll go to Ullika. On you go, please.
Hello, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. First of all, I want to appreciate all the data and all the information you provide us. After discussion in the chat room and after the entire session, my opinion is that there are very important inhomogeneities among universities. There are very different levels of implementation of sustainability and application. And this is why I would like to propose you, of course, only if you consider that could be applicable, to try to build together or not, maybe in a frame of Horizon on other application program, a guideline, a set of good practices, an implementation strategy models, a collection of models, a panel of indicators which will bring together new ideas, creativity, and of course already achieved experience in this field. Then a set of follow-up measures in order to see how it was, how evolved the strategy. Maybe in order to make a common effort to do something, let's say, more traceable at the level of European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good recommendation and something we can progress offline, because I do think there is potential value in that. Let's go to some of the other groups. Delphine, Ullika, was there any kind of feedback that you wanted to share from the group discussions you were involved in?
Yeah, so we were, I think, very going from the start, like a question about how to start to implement a sustainability policy or strategy in your university. So we were able, maybe the one that were a little bit more advanced in that process, to give some advice or to discuss about that. And then at the end, we were also talking about this new notion of handprint, in contrary to footprint, which consists to maybe communicate a little bit more positively on the positive impact of doing such a process and put it in place. So it's really like now we were able to set a carbon assessment and going a little bit further, how we can, move the communication about the impact and put it a little bit more positive. So it was something that Catherine at the FUB is starting to reflect on. And I think it's a very good point also because I think that in those kind of strategy, you are always trying to test the communication, and if is it a good way for the community to bring the community with you, involve a little bit more of the community. So yeah, I think it was also a good point. So we were from the start to, like, once you have all those tools put in place, how you communicate on that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Delphine. And Ullika, is there any feedback you'd like to share?
Yes, just a few seconds. We discussed University of Ankara. You said, I think you said 36 campuses, and the University of Gothenburg has the same thing. We don't have one campus. We have we are a city university spread all over Gothenburg. We also have field stations. We have out up in the Swedish west coast. The challenges in finding a structure that is working for all different kind of organizations, for all kind of different faculties, departments. That is a challenge, and that's why I always go on about the organization. But I find that very, very important for us, that we have representatives at everywhere, so to speak, but something that gathers these representatives together. I also explained, for example, that we don't are allowed to own our own properties in Sweden, the universities. So that is a challenge. We're talking about stakeholder engagement. You have to be very friendly, I almost speak, but you have to have good cooperation with your property owners. And when it comes to installing solar panels, you just can't do it. You have to have the discussions with the property owners and have good cooperation to make things work. So that could be a challenge as well, but very good when they are working in the same line with you. You get a lot of things done. Otherwise, anything you want to that I missed, Ahmed? No.
No, thanks. You explained very briefly.
Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you all. I'm conscious of time, and we've come to the end of the session. So thank you for your participation today. Just a reminder that we will be sharing the video recording and the presentations on the UNICA website. We'd also greatly appreciate if you could complete the short evaluation survey of this event as well. So if you go to the meeting chat, there's a link there. So if you could maybe just take a couple of minutes just now just to complete that, that would be wonderful. We are, as I said at the start, getting a few more responses from universities to the survey. And once we've done that, we will share the results with you through a report. And I would imagine that would make a really good point of discussion for future working group meetings in this area. But lastly, just to say a big thank you again for your participation. Hope you have found it valuable and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you all.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.